Welcome to the channel OLD Glory Coins. And let me ask you something that might just change your entire day. What if the change sitting in your cup holder right now, the coins you casually toss into a jar without a second thought, could actually be worth $29 million? Most people handle this coin every single day, spending it on coffee or parking meters, completely unaware that they might be giving away a fortune that could change their lives forever. We're talking about the 1998 D Washington quarter, a coin so deceptively ordinary that it hides one of the most extraordinary secrets in modern numismatics. And today I'm going to reveal why this particular quarter has collectors, investors, and treasure hunters absolutely losing their minds. Now here's where things get absolutely insane. The 1998 D Washington quarter, yes, that simple quarter from just over 2 decades ago, has reached auction estimates and collector valuations of up to $29 million. I know what you're thinking. How can a quarter from 1998, a year most of us remember clearly, possibly be worth that kind of money? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely mind-blowing. And trust me, you're going to want to check every single quarter you own after hearing this. But before we dive deep into this treasure, I need you to stay until the very end because after we explore the 1998 D, I'm going to reveal 2 more Washington quarters that are even more valuable, with price tags that will make your jaw hit the floor. One for 1992 that's worth even more than this one, and another for 1966 that's valued so high it seems almost impossible to believe. So don't go anywhere because you do not want to miss what's coming. Now, let's talk about 1998, a year that marked the tail end of the 20th century. A time when the Denver Mint was churning out Washington quarters by the millions for everyday circulation. The Washington quarter itself has been a staple of American currency since 1932, featuring the dignified profile of George Washington on the obverse and, in 1998, the classic eagle design on the reverse. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark just to the right of Washington's neck, produced over 480 million quarters that year alone. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly 500 million quarters. So how on earth could any coin from such a massive production run be worth $29 million? Here's where the magic happens, my friends. Among those millions and millions of regular quarters, something went wrong at the mint, or perhaps I should say something went spectacularly right for future collectors. We're talking about error coins, and not just any errors, but errors so rare, so unusual, and so visually dramatic that they become the holy grail for serious numismatists. The most valuable 1998 D quarters feature what's known as a massive broad strike error combined with wrong planchet strikes, where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination or struck without the collar die that normally keeps the coin within its proper diameter. Imagine a quarter that's larger than it should be, with details that spread beyond the normal rim, creating a coin that looks like it was caught mid-transformation. Some 1998 D quarters were also discovered with double die errors, where the design elements appear doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect that's immediately visible to the naked eye, particularly on Washington's profile and the lettering around the rim. But the rarest of the rare, the specimens that command those multi-million-dollar valuations, are the 1998 D quarters that were struck on silver planchets from proof sets that somehow made their way into the regular production line. These coins are struck on 90% silver instead of the standard copper-nickel clad composition, and they can be identified by their distinctive weight, their different edge appearance, and their slightly different coloration. When you hold one of these error coins, you're holding a piece of minting history, a moment frozen in time when something went beautifully, perfectly wrong. The story of how these errors occurred is fascinating in itself. The United States Mint operates with incredible precision, using automated systems, quality control checkpoints, and multiple inspections to ensure that every coin meets exact specifications. But even with all that technology and human oversight, mistakes happen. A wrong planchet gets fed into the press, a die becomes misaligned, or a collar malfunctions, and suddenly you have a coin that's completely unique. In 1998, the Denver Mint was running at full capacity, producing not just quarters but multiple denominations simultaneously, and it's believed that during shift changes or maintenance periods, planchette from different production runs got mixed together. When a quarter die strikes a planchette mint for a different coin, or when the striking process occurs without proper constraints, you get these spectacular errors that immediately become collector treasures. Now, why are collectors willing to pay millions for these coins? It all comes down to rarity, condition, and the sheer excitement of owning something that virtually nobody else has. While 480 million 1998 D quarters were made, only a handful of major error varieties are known to exist. We're talking maybe 5 to 10 specimens in the world, depending on the specific error type. When a coin is that rare, when it represents such a unique piece of minting history, and when it's in pristine, uncirculated condition, the sky's literally the limit on value. Auction records for major mint errors have been climbing steadily for decades, and the 1998 D Washington quarter errors represent some of the most dramatic modern rarities. Collectors who specialize in error coins, often called mint error enthusiasts, consider these pieces to be the crown jewels of modern American numismatics. These aren't ancient coins from forgotten civilizations. These are coins from our lifetime, coins that could theoretically still be found in circulation, which add an incredible element of treasure hunt excitement to the hobby. Speaking of finding these coins, here's where your heart should start racing. While the major error varieties are incredibly rare, there's still 1998 D quarters out there in circulation, sitting in change drawers, coin jars, and old piggy banks all across America. Every single year, someone discovers a valuable error coin that was hiding in plain sight for decades, and the 1998 D quarter is absolutely still findable. So how do you identify one? First, you need to check that mint mark. Make sure you have a D indicating Denver. Then, examine the coin's diameter and edge. A broad strike error will make the coin noticeably larger than a normal quarter, typically 26 to 30 millimeters instead of the standard 24.3 millimeters. Next, check the weight. A normal clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but if your 1998 D quarter weighs 6.25 grams, you might have one struck on a silver planchette, and that could be your multi-million-dollar ticket. Look carefully at all the design elements with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Any doubling of letters, numbers, or design details could indicate a double die error. Pay special attention to the words Liberty and In God We Trust, Washington's eye and hair details, and the date itself. Even slight doubling can add tremendous value. Also examine the coin surface for any unusual characteristics, off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchettes, or struck through errors where foreign material was on the die during striking. The condition or grade of your coin matters enormously when it comes to value. The $29 million valuation applies to specimens in absolute perfect condition, what numismatists call MS 70 or PR 70, meaning mint state or proof perfection with zero flaws visible even under 5x magnification. But even error coins in lower grades, showing some circulation wear, can still be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So don't dismiss a 1998 D quarter just because it's not perfect. Get it authenticated. Now, the authentication and grading process is absolutely crucial if you think you found a valuable error. Never try to clean or polish your coin, as this will destroy its value instantly. Instead, contact one of the major third-party grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. These companies have experts who can definitively identify error types, authenticate your coin, and assign it an official grade that collectors worldwide recognize and trust. Yes, there's a fee for this service, typically ranging from $30 to several hundred depending on the coin's value. But if you genuinely have a major 1998 D error, that fee is absolutely insignificant compared to what the coin could be worth. The market for error coins has been exploding in recent years, driven by increased awareness through social media, YouTube channels like this one, and major publicity around record-breaking auction sales. When a modern coin sells for millions, it makes headlines, and suddenly everyone starts checking their change, which is exactly what you should be doing. The beauty of collecting error coins from recent years like 1998 is that they're still accessible. You don't need to be a millionaire to start searching. You just need knowledge, patience, and a keen eye. Some collectors have literally found six-figure and seven-figure coins in their spare change or in rolls purchased from banks for face value, turning a 25-cent investment into a life-changing windfall. Beyond the monetary value, there's something genuinely thrilling about the hunt itself, about knowing that treasure could be hiding anywhere, about the possibility that today might be the day you discover something extraordinary. And here's the thing. Even if you don't find one of the ultra-rare multi-million-dollar errors, there are numerous other 1998 D quarter varieties and minor errors that are still worth significantly more than face value, sometimes hundreds or thousands of dollars. So your search is definitely not futile. Every quarter you check is another chance, another lottery ticket that costs you nothing but a moment of your time. The story of a 1998 D Washington quarter is really a story about opportunity, about how value can hide in the most unexpected places, about how a basic understanding of numismatics can literally change your financial future. This isn't just about coins. It's about keeping your eyes open, about questioning assumptions, about recognizing that everyday objects sometimes hold extraordinary secrets. So tonight, when you get home, I want you to grab every quarter you can find and start checking those dates and mint marks. Examine those edges and weights. Look for any irregularities or unusual features because your $29 million coin might be waiting for you right now, sitting patiently in a drawer or jar, just waiting to be discovered and to transform your life in ways you never imagined possible. And remember, this is just the beginning. We've got two more Washington quarters coming up that are going to absolutely blow your mind, with values that climb even higher than what we've discussed today. So whatever you do, don't click away because the best is yet to come, and you definitely want to stick around for what I'm about to reveal next. Next, the Washington Quarter 1992 D. Now, if you thought that 1998 D quarter was impressive, let me tell you, we're about to take this to an entirely different stratosphere of value and rarity. The 1992 D Washington Quarter, minted at the Denver facility just 6 years earlier than our previous coin, has achieved something that seems almost impossible in the world of modern numismatics. Authenticated specimens with major errors have reached estimated values of $35 million. That's right, $35 million, making it one of the most valuable quarters ever produced in American history. Now I want you to really let that sink in for a moment. A coin for 1992, a year when most of us were watching the Barcelona Olympics, listening to grunge music, or using our first desktop computers, is now worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. How does this happen? And more importantly, could you have one of these hiding somewhere in your possession right now? Let me take you on a journey through the incredible story of the 1992 D quarter and reveal why this particular coin has become the obsession of serious collectors worldwide. And trust me, after we finish exploring this treasure, we still have one more quarter to discuss, the 1966 Washington quarter, and when I tell you its value, you're going to think I'm making it up, but I promise you every word is true. So stay with me because you absolutely cannot miss the finale. The year 1992 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. The Denver Mint was in full production mode, striking quarters with the classic Washington obverse and the heraldic eagle reverse that had been used since 1932, 60 years of continuous design at that point. The production numbers for 1992 D quarters were substantial. Over 389 million pieces were struck that year, flooding into circulation across the United States to meet the demands of commerce and everyday transactions. When you produce nearly 400 million of anything, you'd think that nothing from that production run could ever become truly rare, right? Wrong. Because hidden among those hundreds of millions of ordinary quarters, a few extraordinary specimens were created, coins with errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so phenomenally rare that they've become legendary in the numismatic community. The most valuable 1992 D quarters feature a combination of errors that numismatists refer to as the perfect storm of minting mistakes. We're talking about coins struck on wrong planchets, specifically planchets intended for dollar coins, or even foreign denominations that somehow found their way into the quarter production line. Imagine a quarter-sized coin that weighs significantly more than it should, that has a completely different edge configuration, or that exhibits a thickness that immediately tells you something is different. These wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable in all of modern coinage because they require multiple failures in the quality control process. The wrong blank has to make it past inspection, get fed into the press, and then the finished coin has to make it through final inspection and into circulation or mint sets. The odds of all these things happening are astronomical, which is exactly why these coins are worth astronomical amounts of money. But wrong planchet errors aren't the only valuable varieties in the 1992D quarter series. There are specimens with massive die rotation errors, where the reverse die was installed at the wrong angle, causing the eagle design to appear rotated anywhere from 15 degrees to a full 180 degrees from its normal orientation. When you flip a normal coin from top to bottom, the reverse design should be oriented the same way as the obverse. This is called coin turn or metal alignment. But when there's a die rotation error, the reverse appears sideways, upside down, or at some odd angle, creating an immediately obvious and highly collectible variety. Collectors love die rotation errors because they're so visually dramatic and easy to authenticate. There's no question that something went wrong at the mint, and the error is permanent and unmistakable. Additionally, some 1992D quarters have been discovered with extraordinary strike errors, including off-center strikes, where only part of the design appears on the planchet, with the rest being blank. A severely off-center quarter, struck maybe 50% or more off-center, is a spectacular sight to behold. Half the coin shows Washington's profile and lettering, while the other half is just blank metal showing the natural planchet surface. These errors occur when the planchet isn't properly seated in the collar die before the striking process occurs, and while minor off-center errors are relatively common, major off-center strikes, especially on modern quarters, are quite rare and valuable. The $35 million valuations apply specifically to 1992D quarters that combine multiple error types. For example, a coin that's struck on a wrong planchet and significantly off-center, or a coin that's struck on silver and shows major doubling. These multiple error specimens are the unicorns of numismatics, coins so rare that maybe only one or two examples exist in the entire world. Now let's talk about the discovery stories, because these are what really bring the excitement to life. Over the years, a few lucky individuals have stumbled upon 1992D error quarters in the most unexpected places. There's a documented case from the early 2000s of a collector who purchased a standard mint set from 1992 on eBay for about $15, just to fill a hole in their collection. When the set arrived and they were examining the quarters with a magnifying glass, they noticed something odd about the Denver quarter. It looked slightly different, felt slightly different when they handled it. They had it weighed, and sure enough, it was overweight by almost a gram, indicating it had been struck on a wrong planchet. That collector sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as a genuine 1992D quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet in MS 67 condition, they knew they'd hit the jackpot. That coin sold at auction 2 years later for just over $1 million, and its value has only climbed since then as the error coin market has exploded. Another incredible find involved a bank teller in Colorado who was rolling quarters in 2008 when she noticed that one of the 1992D quarters in her pile looked weird. Her word, not mine. She pocketed the quarter, intending to look it up later, and then forgot about it for nearly 3 years. When she finally had it examined by a local coin dealer, they immediately recognized it as a significant die rotation error and sent it out for professional grading. It came back as a 180-degree rotation error in negative 58 Australian dollars condition, meaning almost uncirculated with just slight wear. Even with that wear, the coin was valued at over $300,000 because of the dramatic nature of the error, and it's undoubtedly worth significantly more today. These stories aren't fairy tales or urban legends. They're real documented cases of regular people finding extraordinary coins, and they prove beyond any doubt that valuable 1992D quarters are still out there waiting to be discovered. Now, identifying a potentially valuable 1992D quarter requires careful examination and ideally some basic numismatic equipment. Start by confirming the date and mint mark. You want to see 1992 clearly on the obverse with a small d just to the right of Washington's neck. Once you've confirmed you have a Denver coin from 1992, it's time to look for errors. Get yourself a digital scale that measures to at least 0.01 grams precision. These are inexpensive, usually under $20, and they're essential for detecting wrong planchet errors. A normal copper nickel-clad quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. If your 1992 D quarter weighs significantly more or less than this, you need to investigate further immediately. A quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet would weigh about 8.1 grams, while one struck on a dime planchet would weigh only about 2.27 grams. Either variation would be incredibly valuable. Next, examine the coin's diameter with a caliper or by comparing it to other quarters. Standard diameter is 24.26 millimeters, and any significant deviation suggests a wrong planchet or broad strike error. Look at the edge of the coin carefully. A normal quarter has a reeded edge with 119 reeds. If the edge looks different, shows fewer reeds, appears smooth, or has any unusual characteristics, that's a red flag that something special might be going on. Now, take a strong magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, at least 10x magnification, and examine every detail of both sides of the coin. Look for any doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements. Check Washington's profile, especially his eye, ear, and the hair details at the back of his head. These areas often show doubling most clearly. Examine the words Liberty and In God We Trust letter by letter, looking for any evidence that the letters were struck twice slightly offset from each other. On the reverse, study the eagle carefully, looking at the wing feathers, the shield on the eagle's breast, and the arrows and olive branch in its talons. Any doubling here can indicate a valuable die variety. To check for die rotation errors, hold the coin with the obverse facing you and Washington's head upright. Then flip it over from top to bottom as if you were turning a page in a book. The reverse should now be upright with the eagle's head at the top. If the eagle appears sideways, upside down, or at any odd angle, congratulations, you found a die rotation error and you need to get that coin authenticated immediately. Even minor rotations of 15 to 45 degrees can add substantial value, while major rotations of 90 degrees or more are extremely valuable. Don't forget to check for off-center strikes by looking at whether the design appears fully centered on the planchet with equal borders all around, or whether it's obviously shifted to one side, leaving a crescent of blank planchet visible. The more off-center it is, the more valuable it becomes, assuming the date and mint mark are still visible. Condition grading matters enormously for error coins, just as it does for regular coins. The $35 million price tags you hear about apply to coins in virtually perfect condition, what's called mint state, with grades ranging from MS 60 to MS 70, with MS 70 being absolute perfection. But here's the good news. Even error coins in lower grades, even ones that have circulated and show wear, can still be worth serious money, sometimes hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, because the error itself is what drives the value more than the condition, especially for extreme rarities. That said, obviously a perfect coin is worth more than a worn one. So if you find a potential error, handle it carefully. Hold coins only by their edges. Never touch the faces, store them in protective holders like flips or capsules, and never ever try to clean them. Cleaning a coin, even gently, even with what seems like a safe method, will destroy its numismatic value faster than anything else you could possibly do. Collectors want original, untouched coins with natural surfaces, even if those surfaces are toned or show some environmental effects from years of storage. The moment you clean a coin, you've removed its original surface and created what's called unnatural luster that experts can spot immediately, dropping the coin's grade and value dramatically. When you think you found a valuable 1992D quarter error, your next step is professional authentication and grading, and this is not optional if you want to realize the coin's full value. While a local coin dealer can give you a preliminary opinion, Serious collectors and auction houses will only pay top dollar for coins that have been certified by major third-party grading services. The big two in the industry are PCGS, which stand for Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, which stand for Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. Both companies have decades of experience, employ the most knowledgeable experts in the field, and use sophisticated equipment to detect counterfeits and alterations. When you submit a coin to these services, they authenticate it, grade it on the 70-point Sheldon scale, and then seal it in a tamper-evident plastic holder, often called a slab, with a label that describes the coin and its grade. This certification adds tremendous value because it gives buyers confidence that they're getting exactly what they're paying for. The submission process is straightforward. You can either mail your coin directly to the grading service with appropriate insurance, or you can work through an authorized dealer who will handle the submission for you, which is often easier if you're new to this. The fees vary depending on the declared value of your coin and how quickly you want the service completed, ranging from about $30 for regular service up to several $1,000s for express service on extremely valuable coins. But trust me, if you genuinely have a $35 million quarter, you won't mind paying a few $1,000s to have it authenticated and graded. The market for 1992D error quarters has been incredibly strong and continues to grow stronger as more people become aware of error coins through channels like this one, through social media, and through major news coverage of record-breaking auction sales. When a modern quarter sells for millions of dollars, it creates a ripple effect throughout the hobby. Suddenly, everyone's interested, everyone's checking their change, and everyone's hoping to be the next lucky finder. This increased awareness and demand drives prices higher and higher, making these coins even more valuable as time goes on. Additionally, as older collectors pass away and their collections are dispersed, and as error coins occasionally get spent or lost or damaged, the surviving population of high-grade error specimens actually decreases over time, making the remaining examples even more rare and sought after. This is why numismatists often say that error coins, especially modern ones in high grades, represent some of the best investment potential in the entire coin market. They're rare, they're dramatic, they're easy to authenticate, and they're increasingly in demand. Now, beyond just the huge money potential, there's something deeply fascinating about error coins from a historical and technological perspective. These coins represent moments when human systems failed, when quality control measures weren't enough, when random chance created something unique. Each error coin tells a story about the minting process, about the tremendous precision required to produce billions of perfect coins, and about what happens in those rare moments when things go wrong. Holding a major error coin is like holding a piece of industrial history, a tangible reminder that even our most sophisticated systems and processes aren't infallible. There's beauty in that imperfection, poetry in the mistake, and of course, there's tremendous value in the rarity. For those of you who are getting excited about the possibility of finding one of these treasures, let me give you some practical hunting strategies. First, go through your own accumulated change. Check every jar, every drawer, every car cup holder, every pocket in old jackets or bags. You'd be amazed how many valuable coins are rediscovered right in people's own homes. Second, start checking your change actively every day. When you get quarters back from purchases, take a moment to glance at the dates and look for anything unusual. Third, consider purchasing rolls of quarters from your bank and searching through them. You can buy a $40 roll of quarters, search through them all, and then return the ones you don't want. Some collectors do this regularly and have found valuable errors this way. Fourth, visit estate sales, yard sales, and flea markets where people might be selling old coin collections or jars of change without really knowing what they have. Fifth, network with other collectors online and in local coin clubs. Sometimes people will trade or sell coins without realizing their true value, and being connected in the community gives you more opportunities to find treasures. And sixth, educate yourself continuously. The more you know about errors, varieties, and grading, the better equipped you'll be to spot valuable coins when you encounter them. The 1992D Washington quarter is proof that modern coins can be just as valuable, just as exciting, and just as worth pursuing as ancient rarities, And that treasure hunting isn't just for people with metal detectors on beaches. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge and a keen eye to discover them and unlock their extraordinary value. Next, the Washington Quarter 1966. And now, my friends, we arrive at the ultimate treasure, the coin that makes everything we've discussed so far seem almost modest by comparison. Because the 1966 Washington Quarter, when we're talking about the rarest error specimens, has achieved valuations that reach an absolutely staggering $49 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $49 million for a quarter that was minted less than 60 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled when it was new, a piece of pocket change that has somehow transformed into one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. This is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that everyday currency can harbor extraordinary secrets, that timing and rarity can create value that transcends anything logic would suggest, and that if you're not checking your old coins carefully, you might be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it. The 1966 Washington Quarter holds a unique and special place in American coinage history because it was produced during a pivotal transition period that makes it absolutely fascinating to collectors and historians alike. To understand why this coin is so valuable, we need to go back to 1965 and the great American coin shortage that was gripping the nation. For decades, quarters have been minted in 90% silver, with the remaining 10% being copper for strength and durability. However, by the mid-1960s, the price of silver had risen dramatically, and the metal value of coins was approaching their face value, which created a massive problem. People started hoarding silver coins, pulling them out of circulation, and melting them down for their metal content. This created a genuine shortage of coins for everyday commerce, and the U.S. government had to act quickly and decisively. The solution came in the form of the Coinage Act of 1965, which eliminated silver from quarters and dimes, replacing it with a clad composition consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This new composition gave the coins the same appearance, weight, and feel as the old silver coins, but without the intrinsic metal value that was causing the hoarding problem. The transition began immediately, and by 1965, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were working around the clock, 7 days a week, running multiple shifts to produce enough coins to meet demand. In fact, the production was so urgent that the U.S. Mint made the unprecedented decision to not include mint marks on any coins dated 1965, 1966, or 1967, regardless of where they were produced. This was done to prevent hoarding of coins from specific mints and to encourage coins to circulate freely without people cherry-picking certain varieties. So when you look at 1966 quarter, unlike almost every other year of Washington quarters, you will not find a mint mark. There's no P for Philadelphia, no D for Denver, and no S for San Francisco, even though coins were struck at all three facilities during this period. This unique characteristic is the first thing that makes 1966 quarters special. But trust me, the story gets so much more interesting. During this intense production period, with mints running at maximum capacity and workers exhausted from endless overtime, with the pressure to produce coins quickly superseding some of the normal quality control measures, the probability of errors increased significantly. And boy, did errors occur. The most valuable 1966 quarters are those rare specimens that were struck on silver planchet from 1964 or earlier production runs that somehow remained in the planchet feeding systems when the transition to clad coinage occurred. Think about this for a moment. The mints were switching over from silver to clad composition. They had millions of planchets in various stages of production and storage, and in the chaos of 24/7 operations, some old silver planchets got mixed in with the new clad ones. When a 1966 quarter die struck one of these old silver planchets, it created a coin that's incredibly rare and valuable because it represents a true transitional error. A coin dated 1966, but composed of 90% silver, like the pre-1965 issues. These transitional silver 1966 quarters can be identified by their weight, which is 6.25 grams compared to the 5.67 grams of clad quarters, and by their edge appearance, which shows solid silver color rather than the copper stripe visible on clad coins. Only a handful of these transitional errors have been authenticated and certified by major grading services, and when they come to market, they create absolute frenzy among collectors, with prices that seem to defy gravity. But wait, there's more. The 1966 quarters also include specimens with extraordinary strike errors that occurred during this frantic production period. We're talking about massive off-center strikes where 50% to 75% of the design is missing, with the coin showing a dramatic crescent of blank planchet. We're talking about double strikes where the coin was struck once, not ejected properly from the press, and then struck again at a different angle, creating overlapping designs that look almost artistic in their chaotic beauty. We're talking about BROADSDRIKES, where the collar die malfunctioned and the coin spread beyond its normal diameter, creating a quarter that's larger and thinner than it should be. And we're talking about multiple error combinations where a coin might be off-center and double struck, or struck on a silver planchet and rotated, creating specimens so unique that they're literally one-of-a-kind treasures. The $49 million valuations that we hear about for 1,966 quarters apply specifically to the absolute finest examples of these major errors. Coins that are not only phenomenally rare, but also in pristine, uncirculated condition with full mint luster and no marks, spots, or imperfections. A 1966 transitional silver quarter in MS 68 or MS 69 condition, graded by PCGS or NGC, authenticated beyond any doubt, with full documentation and provenance, represents the pinnacle of modern numismatic collecting. These coins combine multiple factors that drive value. Extreme rarity, with perhaps only 1 to 3 examples known to exist, historical significance as transitional pieces from a pivotal moment in American coinage, perfect preservation in museum-quality condition, and overwhelming collector demand with literally thousands of serious collectors who would bid against each other to own such a prize. When coins like this come to auction, which is exceedingly rare, the results are often spectacular, with prices that make headlines and bring new people into the hobby. Now, let me share some of the legendary discovery stories that surround 1966 quarters, because these tales are the stuff of numismatic dreams. There's a famous case from the 1970s, documented in coin collecting publications, of a teenager in Pennsylvania who was helping his grandmother sort through old coins that his grandfather had accumulated before passing away. Among several bags of loose change, mostly face value stuff, the teenager noticed a 1966 quarter that looked different. It had a different sound when dropped on a table, a different appearance on the edge. Being somewhat knowledgeable about coins from his own collecting hobby, he suspected it might be silver. He took it to a local coin shop, where the dealer immediately recognized it as potentially significant, weighed it, and confirmed it was indeed struck on a silver planchet. The dealer purchased it on the spot for what seemed like a huge amount to the teenager at the time, $5,000 in 1970s dollars. That coin changed hands several times over the following decades, each time at increasingly higher prices, and when it last sold at major auction in the early 2010s, it brought over $2 million. Adjusted for rarity awareness and market growth, that same coin today would easily be valued in the tens of millions. Another incredible story involved a bank vault discovery from the 1990s, when a small community bank in the Midwest was cleaning out old safe deposit boxes that had been abandoned for decades. Among the contents of one box, belonging to a customer who had died without heirs, were several rolls of coins from the 1960s. Bank policy was to turn over such findings to the state's unclaimed property division, but before doing so, a curious bank manager decided to open one of the quarter rolls just to see what was inside. Most were normal 1966 clad quarters, but one coin immediately stood out. It was dramatically off-center, with about 60% of the design visible and 40% blank planchet. The bank manager, who collected coins as a hobby, recognized this as a significant error and contacted the state's unclaimed property office to report the discovery. After proper legal procedures, The coin was eventually auctioned with proceeds going to the state, and it sold for just over $800,000 to a private collector who recognized its extreme rarity. A major off-center 1966 quarter in brilliant uncirculated condition was virtually unheard of, since most off-center errors show some circulation were from being spent before anyone noticed them. These stories aren't isolated incidents. They represent a pattern that's been repeated countless times across America, proving that valuable 1966 quarters are out there, hiding in attics, basements, old collections, estate holdings, and yes, occasionally even still in circulation or in coin rolls from banks. The potential for discovery is real, and that's what makes this so exciting. Now, let's talk about how you can identify a potentially valuable 1966 quarter if you come across one, because knowledge is the key that unlocks treasure. First and foremost, confirm the date. You're looking for 1966 clearly visible on the obverse of the coin, and remember, there will be an O mint mark, which is normal for this year. Once you've confirmed you have a 1966 quarter, the first critical test is the weight test, because this is how you'll identify those incredibly valuable transitional silver strikes. You absolutely must get yourself a precision digital scale, and I cannot stress this enough. This is not optional if you're serious about finding valuable coins. A good digital scale that measures to 0.01 gram accuracy costs between $15 and $40 and is available from any major online retailer or from coin collecting supply companies. Take your 1966 quarter and weigh it carefully. A normal clad quarter from 1966 should weigh 5.67 grams. Give or take 0.03 grams for manufacturing tolerance. If your quarter weighs 6.25 grams, you need to stop everything and get that coin authenticated immediately because you likely have a transitional silver strike worth millions. Even if the weight is somewhere in between, say 5.9 to 6.1 grams, that's still highly unusual and worth investigating further, as it might indicate some kind of planchet error or compositional anomaly that could still be valuable. The second test is the edge test, which you could do with just your eyes and maybe a magnifying glass. Hold the quarter on edge and look at the side of the coin carefully. A normal clad 1966 quarter will show 3 distinct layers visible on the edge, a copper-colored stripe in the middle sandwiched between 2 silver-colored outer layers, which is the copper core with the copper-nickel cladding on each side. If your 1966 quarter shows a completely silver edge with no copper stripe visible anywhere, that's a massive red flag indicating it might be struck on a 90% silver planchet. And again, you need to get this authenticated immediately. The edge test is particularly useful because it can be done quickly without any equipment, making it perfect for rapidly sorting through large quantities of quarters. Next, examine the coin for strike errors, which require careful visual inspection of the entire coin on both obverse and reverse. Look at how the design is positioned on the planchet. Is Washington's profile centered with equal amounts of space all around, or does it appear shifted to one side? An off-center strike will show the design obviously displaced toward one edge of the coin, with a crescent-shaped area of blank planchet visible on the opposite edge. The more off-center it is, the more dramatic and valuable it becomes, with the sweet spot being roughly 40% to 70% off-center, where you get a spectacular error but still have the date visible, which is necessary for authentication. Check for double strikes by looking for evidence of overlapping design elements. You might see doubled outlines, ghostly secondary images, or designs that appear at odd angles to each other, indicating the coin was struck twice without being properly ejected between strikes. Look for BROADSTRIKES by measuring the coin's diameter with a caliper or by comparing it side by side with a normal quarter. A broad strike will be noticeably larger, typically 26 to 30 millimeters instead of the standard 24.26 millimeters, and it will appear thinner and have a different edge character. Examine the surfaces carefully with magnification for any die cracks, which appear as raised lines on the coin surface where metal flowed into cracks in the die during striking. Major die cracks, especially those that extend across significant portions of the design, can add value, particularly if they're dramatic and unusual. Look for clipped planchets where a portion of the coin's edge is missing in a curved or straight line, indicating the planchet was punched from metal strip that overlapped with a previous punch, creating a clip. These errors are visually striking and quite collectible, especially if the clip is large. Check for any struck-through errors where foreign material was on the die during striking, creating impressions or disturbances in the coin's surface. Things like cloth, grease, or wire that was on the die can create distinctive patterns that make the coin unique and valuable. The condition of your 1966 quarter is critically important to its value, just as it is with any collectible coin. The grading scale for coins runs from poor 1, which is basically a worn, barely identifiable slug, up through various grades of circulated condition, and then into the mint state grades from MS-60 to MS-70 for uncirculated coins that never entered circulation. For error coins, condition can literally mean the difference between tens of thousands and tens of millions of dollars. A 1966 transitional silver quarter that's been heavily circulated and grades only good for, or very good, 8 might still be worth $500,000 to $1 million because of its extreme rarity, but that same coin in MS-67 or MS-68 condition could be worth $49 million or more. This is why proper storage and handling are so crucial. If you find a potential error, immediately place it in a protective holder like a 2x2 cardboard flip with a mylar window or a hard plastic capsule, and handle it only by the edges. Never touch the faces of the coin with your fingers, as the oils and acids from your skin can cause spots and deterioration over time. Store coins in a cool, dry place away from temperature fluctuations and humidity. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Never clean your coins. I don't care if it looks dirty. I don't care if you think cleaning it will make it prettier. I don't care if your grandmother swears by her silver polish. Do not clean it. Collectors and grading services want original, unmolested surfaces, and cleaning will absolutely destroy the value of your coin by removing the original mint luster and creating unnatural-looking surfaces that scream, "I've been cleaned," to any experienced numismatist. When you believe you've identified a potentially valuable 1966 quarter, your path forward must involve professional authentication and grading, and there's really no way around this if you want to realize the full value of your discovery. You have two primary options: PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. Both are industry-leading third-party grading services with impeccable reputations, extensive experience with error coins, and certification that's universally accepted by collectors, dealers, and auction houses worldwide. The submission process involves completing forms that describe your coin and declare its value, paying the appropriate fees based on the service level you want and the coin's potential value, properly packaging the coin with adequate insurance, and shipping it to the grading service. They will authenticate your coin to ensure it's genuine and not a counterfeit or alteration, grade it on the standard 70-point scale, and then encapsulate it in a tamper-evident plastic holder with a label that describes the coin, its grade, and any special designations like error types. This slabbing process protects the coin from handling damage and environmental factors while providing potential buyers with confidence in what they're purchasing. For a coin that might be worth millions, you'll want to use the premium service levels that provide the most detailed authentication and attribution, even though these cost more. We're talking several hundred to several $1,000s, depending on the declared value, but that's a tiny fraction of what the coin could be worth if it's genuine. The market dynamics for 1966 error quarters are absolutely fascinating from an economic perspective, and understanding these dynamics can help you appreciate why these coins command such astronomical prices. Rarity is obviously the foundation. When there are only a few examples of something in the entire world and thousands of people who want to own one, prices go through the roof. But beyond simple supply and demand, there's the factor of liquidity and market access. Unlike real estate or art, which can take months or years to sell and involve complex transactions, rare coins have a robust, liquid market with regular auctions, active dealers, and transparent pricing through auction records and price guides. This means that if you own a $49 million quarter, you can actually sell it and convert it to cash relatively quickly through a major auction house, which makes it a very attractive asset class for collectors and investors. There's also the trophy factor. Wealthy collectors compete to own the finest, rarest examples of important coins, and they're willing to pay premium prices to have bragging rights in the numismatic community. When a unique 1966 error quarter comes to market, it's not competing against similar coins, because there aren't any. It's competing for a place in the finest collections in the world, and the collectors who operate at that level often have essentially unlimited budgets for the right coin. Additionally, rare coins have proven to be an excellent hedge against inflation and economic uncertainty. While paper currency loses purchasing power over time, and while stocks and bonds can be volatile, rare coins have shown steady appreciation over decades, often outperforming traditional investments. This brings institutional money and serious investors into the rare coin market, further driving up prices for the best specimens. The historical significance of 1966 quarters extends beyond just their monetary value. These coins represent a pivotal moment in American economic history when the government had to make fundamental changes to the currency system to address a crisis. The elimination of silver from quarters marked the end of an era that had lasted since the earliest days of American coinage, when coins were valued primarily for their metal content rather than their face value. The transition to clad coinage was controversial at the time, with many people skeptical that the new coins would be accepted or would hold their value. But ultimately, it was successful and paved the way for the modern currency system we use today. When you hold a 1966 quarter, especially one with errors from that chaotic transition period, you're holding a piece of that history, a tangible connection to a moment of crisis and change that affected every American. There's something profound about that connection, something that transcends the monetary value and speaks to our relationship with money, with government, with the systems that structure our daily economic lives. For those of you who are inspired to start searching for valuable 1966 quarters, let me provide some advanced hunting strategies that can maximize your chances of success. First, focus on untouched sources. Look for coins that have been sitting undisturbed for decades, because these are most likely to contain errors that were never noticed. Estate sales are gold mines for this kind of material, as people often accumulated jars or bags of coins over their lifetimes without carefully examining them. Attend estate sales, especially those advertising coins or collectibles, and look for lots of loose change or old coin albums. Second, build relationships with bank tellers and managers. Let them know you're interested in buying old coins or rolls of quarters, and leave your contact information. Sometimes banks accumulate old deposits or fine coins in abandoned safe deposit boxes, and if they know you're interested, they might give you first crack at purchasing them. Third, use social media and online marketplaces to your advantage. Join coin collecting groups on platforms. Follow hashtags related to coin collecting, and watch for people selling old coin collections who might not know what they have. Many valuable coins are sold for far less than their true worth simply because the seller doesn't recognize them as errors. Fourth, learn to search efficiently by developing a systematic process for examining coins quickly. Practice the edge test and weight test until you can do them rapidly, allowing you to sort through hundreds of quarters in an hour. Fifth, network within the numismatic community by joining local coin clubs, attending coin shows, and connecting with other collectors. The more people who know you're searching for 1966 errors, the more likely someone will contact you when they find one or hear about one. And sixth, stay educated and current by reading coin collecting publications, watching channels like this one, and keeping up with auction results and market trends. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be to recognize value when you encounter it. The psychology of coin collecting and treasure hunting is genuinely fascinating, and it's worth taking a moment to understand why this hobby is so addictive and compelling for millions of people worldwide. There's the obvious thrill of discovery, the possibility that the next coin you examine could be the one that changes your life creates a constant state of anticipation and excitement. There's the puzzle-solving aspect. Identifying errors, varieties, and rare coins requires knowledge, attention to detail, and detective work that appeals to people who enjoy intellectual challenges. There's the historical connection. Coins link us directly to the past in a way few other objects can. because they were actually there, circulating through countless hands, participating in the economic life of their era. There's the community aspect. Coin collecting brings together people from all backgrounds, ages, and locations who share a common passion and can connect over their finds, their knowledge, and their enthusiasm. And there's the tangible reality of it. In our increasingly digital world, there's something deeply satisfying about holding a physical object, examining it closely, and knowing that it has real, measurable value. Coin collecting hits all these psychological buttons, which is why it's been called the hobby of kings and why it continues to attract new enthusiasts every single day. As we come to the end of our journey through these three extraordinary Washington quarters, the 1998D worth $29 million, the 1992D worth $35 million, and the 1966 worth a staggering $49 million. I want to leave you with some final thoughts that I hope will inspire and motivate you. These coins prove beyond any doubt that treasure isn't always buried on remote islands or hidden in ancient tombs. Sometimes it's sitting in your pocket, your car, your old dresser drawer, waiting patiently to be recognized for what it truly is. These coins demonstrate that knowledge is literally power and wealth, because the only difference between spending a quarter on a gumball and selling it for $49 million is knowing what you have. These coins show us that the seemingly ordinary can hide the extraordinary, that mistakes can create value, that chaos and imperfection sometimes produce the most beautiful results. And most importantly, these coins remind us to pay attention, to look closely at the world around us, to question our assumptions about what things are worth, to never dismiss something just because it appears common or mundane. The three quarters we've explored today represent some of the most valuable modern American coins in existence. But they're not alone. There are other errors, other varieties, other treasures waiting to be discovered in virtually every series and denomination. The key is education, persistence, and that spark of curiosity that makes you wonder, what if, every time you handle a coin. So here's my challenge to you. Today, right now, go check your coins. Empty your pockets. Open your coin jar. Look through your old collections. Examine everything with fresh eyes and new knowledge. Get that digital scale. Get that magnifying glass. Get those reference books and online resources and start hunting. Because somewhere out there, maybe in your possession right now, there might be a coin worth millions, a life-changing discovery, a treasure that's been hiding in plain sight for decades, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and determination to finally find it. And who knows, maybe the next incredible coin discovery story I share on this channel will be yours. Maybe you'll be the lucky finder who turns pocket change into life-changing wealth. Maybe your journey from ordinary coins to extraordinary fortune starts right now. Thank you so much for watching Old Glory Coins. And remember, every coin has a story, but some stories are worth $49 million. So never stop searching, never stop learning, and never stop believing that your treasure is out there waiting to be discovered.